state sector, which will continue to grow.
Question number 6, Kevin Hague.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Labour and asks, is underground mining safe in New Zealand?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I have previously answered, of course we have concerns about mine safety, which is why we have taken the matter of Pike River and the tragedy that happened there very seriously, and that is why we have established a Royal Commission of Inquiry in relation to that. In addition, to get immediate assurance, a safety audit of all operating underground coal mines in New Zealand was recently completed by 2 independent Australian mining specialists. The audit did not reveal a dangerous situation was imminent in operating underground coal mines in New Zealand.
Kevin Hague.
Does she think it is good enough that of the 4 recent ignitions in the Spring Creek underground coal mine, the Mines Inspectorate only had the resources to follow up 2?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr. Speaker, those issues have been raised as evidence at the Royal Commission, and therefore that is the appropriate place for them to be considered, and I am reluctant to comment further on that.
Kevin Hague.
Point of order, Mr.
Point of
Speaker.
order, Kevin Hague.
The Minister does, of course, have the opportunity to say that it's not in the public interest for her to answer a question, but if so, she should say that. The proceedings before the Royal Commission are not sub judice in any way.
I hear what the member's saying, but I think the Minister was implying in the way she answered she did not consider it to be in the public interest to second-guess the Royal Commission, and that's not an unreasonable position for a Minister to take. Kevin Hague, supplementary question.
Supplementary. Does she agree with international mine safety expert Dave Ficott, who said in the New Zealand Herald yesterday, Pike River represents a spectacular failure of self-regulating companies in a high-risk industry? Why we allowed an economic theory of business competition to persuade us that competing companies would cooperate on mine safety is something else I will never fathom.
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr. Speaker, again I'm reluctant to make comment on evidence that is before the Select Committee, the Royal Commission, and whilst those matters are or some matters will be before the Royal Commission, I think it's inappropriate to make comments which may be seen as compromising or influencing its determination.
Kevin Hague.
Is the Minister aware that as a result of the K and Party mine disaster in 1940, in which 5 people were killed, all underground mines need to be connected by phone to emergency assistance on the surface?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr. Speaker, those suggestions are also under the ambit of the Royal Commission of Inquiry. That is a wide-ranging inquiry, and I am reluctant to make further comments until those determinations have been made by the inquiry.
Point of order, Kevin Hague.
Mr. Speaker, the question simply asked whether she was aware of a particular rule about the requirement for a phone connection between underground mines and emergency assistance on the surface. That doesn't seem to me to be a matter that's currently before the Royal Commission in the manner that the Minister suggests.
What I'll do is I'll hear the Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Sir, can I refer you to Speaker's ruling 31.6? It's acknowledged in a very old ruling of Speaker Statham that the House is not debarred from discussing a matter before the Royal Commission, as would be the case if the matter was before a court. So questions are not necessarily out of order, but they're questions of propriety, and members have to avoid embarrassing the Commission by any statements they make. We have 2 Royal Commissions, and I believe it's extremely important that we avoid any suggestion of embarrassing the members of the Commission doing their work or crossing those bounds of propriety from general questions on a particular subject and moving into an area that may have been, for example, a couple of days ago, the subject of evidence and cross-examination and as a live issue before the Commission. So in my submission, the Minister's taken exactly the right approach.
I'll hear Kevin Hague first.
Speaking to the point of order, Mr. Speaker, I cannot see how it could possibly be an embarrassment to the Royal Commission whether or not the Minister is aware of a requirement for such a phone link between underground and emergency assistance on the surface.
What I would, well, hear briefly from the Honourable David Payne.
Sir, I think there's another point of principle here too, and that is that governments, of course, cause the creation of royal commissions of inquiry. And if by doing that the government could effectively oust the right of parliamentarians to discuss issues of public interest, that would pervert the course of this parliament. So long as the question is not embarrassing to the Royal Commission in the way in which the standing order states, it should be perfectly in order.
I don't want to go. No, I don't want to go on. No, I don't want to go on this indefinitely, because what I propose to do is to invite the member to repeat his question, because I think the point he makes I have some sympathy with, that whether or not the minister is aware of an alleged rule, and I don't know whether such a rule exists or not, can't, in my view, compromise the Royal Commission. But we must trust the minister's judgment with respect to issues that may not be in the public interest because of implications for the Royal Commission. But I invite the member to repeat his question, because as members have alluded to under the points, serious points of order raised, for members not to be able to, it's not out of order to ask questions, and there must be some questions that it is okay in the public interest to answer. And I invite the member to repeat his question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The question is as follows. Is she aware that, as a result of the K and Party mine disaster in 1940, in which 5 people were killed, all underground mines need to be connected by phone to emergency assistance on the surface?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr. Speaker, I concede that I am not aware of all the technical specifications or requirements of mining standards, mining regulations or mining practices. I'm not a miner.
Kevin Hague.
Does the Minister think it is good enough that when the 2 Pike River survivors struggled to the phone in the Pike River mine and called the Pike River surface controller, their call went to an answer phone?
The point of order, the Honourable Chris.
Something that is potentially very embarrassing to the Commission. The Commission is dealing with these very factual issues at this time. It's quite improper.
Order. I appreciate the lecture from the Attorney-General, but actually the judgment as to whether a matter is not in the public interest to be... Order! I'm on my feet if it had escaped the Attorney-General's notice. It is not a matter... It is a matter for the Minister. The Minister must be the sole judge as to whether answering a question is in the public interest or not. And that is a matter for the Minister. And the Minister can certainly seek advice of the Attorney-General around these issues prior to question time or at any stage during question time, but it's up to the Minister to make that determination. The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr. Speaker, once again I am reluctant to make any comments on evidence that may or may not be before the Royal Commission of Inquiry, because I do not want to be seen as compromising or influencing its determination.
Kevin Hague.
Does the Minister think it is good enough that when the 2 Pike
Order,
River...
I apologise to the member. Look, I say to colleagues in the House that these are obviously serious questions, and I must be able to hear them if I'm to be able to make a serious attempt to referee, to use the term my learned colleague has suggested should guide me. And it's not helpful on a serious issue like this. It's not helpful to have unnecessary interjections. Kevin Hay, point of order, Trevor.
Just to make it clear, sir, I'm not legally qualified. I haven't been called to the bar, and therefore I'm not learned.
I do apologise to the honourable member. The same would apply to me, I'm sure. Kevin Hague, supplementary question.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister think it is good enough that when the 2 Pike River survivors finally did get through to the control room and were instructed to keep making their way out of the mine, there was nobody and no supplies, not even a drink of water or first aid, there to meet them, leaving them to make their own way to find help?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr. Speaker, the issue is not what I think is good enough. The issue is what the Commission of Inquiry think is good enough and how they make their determination accordingly.
Kevin Hague.
Does the Minister still agree with John Key's comment on the 22nd of November 2010 that I have no reason to believe that New Zealand's safety standards are any less than Australia's, and in fact our safety record for the most part has been very good.
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
I agree with that comment.
Kevin Hague, supplementary.
Given the clear and mounting evidence that changes made in the 1990s to both the mines inspection system and mine safety regulations have significantly reduced safety standards, what possible reason is there now to wait until the Royal Commission reports before making urgent moves to improve the safety of workers going underground every day right now?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr Speaker, those kinds of assertions and assumptions, whether true or false, will be tested by the Royal Commission and we await their determination.
Kevin Hague.
Will the Minister resign if the Royal Commission finds her department failed in their duty to protect the Pike River miners, as the Minister of Conservation, the Honourable Dennis Marshall, did over Cave Creek?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Speaker, I will await the determination from the Royal Commission of Inquiry and I'll be very interested in seeing what it finds out.
Darien Fenton.
Minister, how will restricting the access of union representatives to workplaces, even where health and safety issues arise, make underground mining in New Zealand safer?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr Speaker, the access of unions to workplaces is still available. It is just subject to the employer's consent, which consent cannot unreasonably be withheld.
The Honourable Rick Barker.
Mr Speaker, why is the government so resistant to miners with practical experience working underground have the power to act and, if necessary, stop work where health and safety issues put lives at risk, preferring instead to leave all health and safety issues to management alone, for whom production and profits is a priority?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr Speaker, the adequacy of the mining inspectorate, the importance or otherwise of check inspectors, the effectiveness of laws and regulations, they're all matters that will be properly considered by the Commission of Inquiry. And until they make that determination, I'm reluctant to make further comment for fear of compromising, jeopardising or influencing its determination.
The Honourable Rick Barker.
Mr Speaker, is it correct to interpret the Minister's answers to Labour and the Greens that she is simply going to wait until the Royal Commission reports until she does anything about mine safety?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr Speaker, until the determination of the Royal Commission of Inquiry makes its findings, we will wait accordingly. And that is the proper course.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard.
If there is evidence before the Royal Commission which shows a clear path for improving safety in mines, will she take that course before the Commission reports?
The Honourable Kate Wilkinson.
Mr Speaker, if there is such evidence, we will be looking at it very carefully at the time.
Question number 7, Colin King.